Please sing with us. Welcome. The season is set for everything. A time for every experience under heaven. A time for planting and a time for reaping. A time for keeping and a time for discarding. A time for loving, a time for hating. A time for embracing and a time for refraining. A time for slaying and a time for healing. A time for laughing and a time for weeping. A time for dancing, a time for wailing, a time for birthing, and a time for dying. A time for speaking, a time for silence, a time for seeking, and a time for losing. Today we gather to remember Harvey Cohen, a man whose love of life radiated through a career of more than 5 decades as a doctor. It radiated in his love for his wife, his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchild. It radiated in his love for Judaism, community, and friends. I feel so lucky to have had the chance to know Harvey over the past few years, to enjoy his bright, playful, sparkling eye and his warm smile. At B'nai Havurah, everyone who knew him loved him. It is a great sadness, a great sadness to lose him. And it is a great honor to remember him with all of you today. We're going to begin with Psalm 121. Ein Jahr Ezri, Sein Ein Jahr Ezri, Ezri, Meim Adonai, Oste, Shamayim Ba'etz, Ezri, Meim Adonai, Oste, Shamayim Ba'etz. I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help comes from the one heaven and earth. My help comes from the one made heaven and earth. Yeah, it's just very loud. There are people who live with such joy and love and generosity that their lives touch more people than we can ever know. Such a man was Harvey Cohen. Harvey Cohen was born in 1933 to Rose and Ben Cohen in Denver, Colorado. He and his sister Sandy were raised on the west side of Denver and part of the tight Jewish community there for many years. Harvey went to North High School and attended CU Boulder for undergrad and med school, and then trained in DC, North Dakota, and New York before returning to Denver. Family lore has it that Harvey became a doctor because the line for that was shorter than the line for becoming a lawyer, and of course it had to be one or the other. Whether or not the beginning was truly so haphazard, Harvey became a devoted, respected, and inspiring physician with a career that spanned 53 years. He originally thought of becoming a pediatrician, but soon realized that he just could not take being around crying children. But babies, he loved babies. So OBGYN it was. In Denver, Harvey went into practice with a partner, Wayne, and the two were a complementary team who only ever fought when Harvey wanted to pay Wayne more and Wayne refused to accept. Unlike many others at the time, their practice accepted Medicaid, and they frequently wrote off charges to patients when they needed it. They served a diverse population, including many in the Orthodox Jewish community at the time. Harvey went on to be the medical director at Beth Israel and the chief of staff at St. Anthony's. He was a senior fellow of the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and he is recognized annually in Colorado at the Harvey Cohen MD Maternal Morbidity and Mortality Summit, which he began in 2013. Just one of many things that are a sign of how devoted he was to women's health. All through his career, Harvey was a strong supporter of reproductive rights. He worked to legalize abortion in Colorado and took personal and professional risk to provide such care well before Roe v. Wade. His daughters remember protesters at the clinic and even at their home, to which Harvey would respond by bringing out donuts. Harvey was so devoted to his work that he only retired at the age of 85. It was a big part of who he was. But the biggest part was family. Harvey met the love of his life, Judy, when he was just 17 years old at a BBYO mixer. They later spent time together at Brandeis Bardeen in California. They corresponded through the beginning of his out-of-state medical training and were then married and eventually returned to raise their family in Denver. They were married for 61 years until Judy's passing. Harvey and Judy had a love that was visible and inspiring. Whether they were laughing and smiling to just be together, or in their later years holding hands secretly under the table. As they both faced health challenges, they cared for one another with inspiring tenderness and devotion. The family and also many people in the B'nai community that I know have told me how much these two loved one another. Together, they had 3 daughters, Eileen, Marilyn, and Linda. Harvey was a loving father, but even so, he worked a lot. And so when his daughters were kids, sometimes they would just get to spend time with him by accompanying him to watch deliveries or nice father-daughter activity, or share meals at the hospital cafeteria. It's been truly a beautiful thing for me to see you daughters caring for him. It was such devotion in his final years and his final days. And we're going to hear more from you later this morning. By the time Harvey's grandchildren came, he had more time and would see them regularly for Thursday ice cream club, Nuggets games, outings to go buying, not shopping, buying. What a blessing it is that he lived long enough to meet his great-granddaughter, Jude, named after his beloved wife. For Harvey, his children and grandchildren and great-grandchild were the greatest joy of his life. He was so proud of all of you, and he loved you dearly, and it shows. And who was Harvey beyond his work and family life? Try to paint a little portrait. Harvey had what you might call spilkus. That always moving wiggliness that can drive you crazy, but powers some people to pack a lot of living into a single lifetime. In his later years, Harvey found his capacity to slow down and enjoy things at a different pace, watching birds, enjoying time to just be with Judy and the grandkids. Harvey was a lifelong learner and a lifelong teacher. Whether quizzing the grandkids on math in the car ride, always in touchdowns and field goal increments, 7s and 3s, being a clinical professor at the CU Med School in Rocky Vista, or teaching at B'nai Havaraz Hebrew School, he always had high expectations without being intimidating. Maybe it was the pizza. He always brought pizza, but his students didn't just like him for the food. He was charming, disarming, and made things fun and lively, whatever the subject. Harvey was generous, writing off bills for patients in need, supporting the grandkids in their college education. He believed in the value of tzedakah, charitable giving, so much that it was one of the ways he measured other people. Harvey was also generous with his love and care, opening his heart and home and family I was very touched to see his close bond with Carmen in these final years as she cared for him. Harvey loved sports. He loved gambling. He loved cars. He loved dogs. He loved reading. He loved theater and musicals, music and dancing. He loved beautiful things, getting dressed up, eating good food. He loved to laugh. He had a great sense of humor and fun. And he lived with gratitude, appreciating those around him and letting them know it. In other words, Harvey loved life. Harvey cared deeply about Jewish life and Jewish community. He was the one grandkid that his grandfather spoke Yiddish to. He was passionate about Israel. Together with Judy, he created a joyful Jewish family life with hands-on traditions like making homemade pickles and horseradish and having holiday meals with the family every year. He was a founding member of B'nai Havurah and remained active in the community, showing up for services till the very end. That's how I got to know Harvey. He and Carmen would come often for Shabbat services, and every time he came, it was always a joy to see his sparkling blue eyes and his big smile. He was a radiant person to be around, full of love and joy. In the end, Harvey was blessed that some measure of the love and light he had given into the world came back to him. In his final days, he was cared for by a nurse whom he had delivered as a baby. How moving to see that circle of care come back to him. My hope as we reflect on Harvey's life today is that it will inspire us to keep that circle of care going, to live as he lived, with love and joy, generosity and purpose. Zichrono livracha. May his memory continue to be a blessing and an inspiration to all who knew him. Amen. So now I'd like to call forward Harvey's daughters, Eileen, Linda, Marilyn, to come and offer some words.
Wow. On behalf of my sisters and our family, thank you. It means a lot, and I see everybody here. Thank you, and people are watching on the stream, so thank you very much. And I'm hoping I get through this 50-50. And Joe and Max can book those bets because Harvey taught them well. So, every time I would leave from visiting Harv, I would say, "Love you." And he would answer, "I love you very much," and then blow a kiss. Harv was the master of one-liners and sharp wit, not for the lack of a gift of gab, but because his actions spoke louder than words. He led by example. His expectations were clear: work hard, be kind and generous, and be assertive. He told me that every week when I talked to him at college. His love and support were unconditional, even when we fell short of his expectations. He was our protector, both in body and spirit. Take this one example. When I was at Boston University, like most college students, I did my share of late night bar hopping. One night, as my friends and I were walking home quite late, along quite a dark back street, a car pulled up next to us. Two men jumped out and demanded our money. Well, we left the bar because we were out of money, so neither of us had money. They asked for our jewelry and took my friend's watch. I don't wear much jewelry except for today, so I had nothing to give. Then they asked my friend for her coat, which she surrendered, and then they got back in the car and sped away. The next morning, I called my parents to tell them. There was a long silence, and then my dad said, "Eileen, just what coat were you wearing that they didn't want?" Whether he meant to be funny or not, even in the scariest moments, my dad's humor had a way of grounding us. Harv was surrounded by women, as we all know, both at home, at work, even the dogs for a long time were women. So he was genuinely thrilled when I started dating Mark. He had finally gotten a male in the house, perhaps a prospective son. Of course, that did take some getting used to. When I was moving out of their house into my own apartment, Mark was helping me haul boxes up and down the stairs while Harv just sat and watched, occasionally shooting Mark a glare, not a nice one. Later that day, as I was unpacking in my new place, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Harv standing there with a coffee cup in his hand. He handed it to me and said, "This is mine for when I come visit." And then he turned around and left. He never understood why his kids couldn't just live with him and Judy forever. As Rabbi said, my dad worked a lot when we were growing up, and time with him was very precious. Often he'd get called for a delivery right in the middle of our family dinner. When we were old enough, we were lucky to go with him to the hospital, and back then we were allowed to go into the delivery room, which was an operating room at that time, to witness births. I'll never forget the first time it was my turn. I was standing there watching the delivery. Miraculous, right? And that's about all I remember, because the next thing I knew, I was seeing stars and heard my dad say, "Can someone please catch her?" From then on, he suggested I pursue an interest in the arts, which we found a way of doing together. Most likely inspired by his friend Yudi Rosen, a coin collector, Harv took up stamp collecting. After a trip to Israel, he discovered Israeli stamps and how they reflect the country's history. He began building a collection, and it was my job to carefully preserve and display the stamps and first day covers, which we still have today. Sharing an interest in stamps suited us better than sharing an interest in medicine. My dad was afflicted with dementia in his later years, which was really hard to watch. But with the support of family, friends, and wonderful caregivers, Carmen, Gabby, Ozzy, Yemi, Sunny, and our cousin Rachel, he kept his sense of humor, loving smile, kind and generous spirit. The day after he passed, I knew it was his time, and he was at peace. Yes, Junie. I really, really missed him, as I do now. Though he's gone, his wisdom, laughter, and love will always be with us. Dad, I love you very much.
Okay. Good morning. Thanks you everybody for being here. We didn't go over our speeches, so you may hear some things a couple times. A little while ago, I was sitting next to my father at a funeral that was very intense. He leaned over to me and said, "At my funeral, could you just tell a few jokes?" So in Harvey's spirit, here we go. A rabbi was once known to take daily walks by the canal, musing over theological issues. One winter day, he saw a dog struggling in the water. A compassionate man and lover of animals, the rabbi stripped off to the waist and dove into the freezing water. By the time he had wrangled the panicking animal to a ladder at the wall, a small crowd had formed in awe of the act of heroism. A man rushed up to get the story. "You must love animals. Are you a vet?" he asked. The rabbi replied, "Vet and cold." Just to keep it light, just one more. Why are OBGYNs so good at telling jokes? It's all about the delivery. My dad was a master storyteller who filled a room with his presence. He thrived on making people laugh, and often the first question he always asked us was, "Are you happy?" I feel so, so lucky and grateful to have had him as a father, and I loved him beyond words. He provided me every opportunity that I could ever ask for, from obtaining 2 college degrees to traveling to amazing places, to instilling a strong Jewish identity and community growing up in Denver. When I think of myself as a parent, I just want to emulate him in these ways. Harvey was a Shane Tata, or a beautiful father. He led by example, and these are some attributes I gained from him. Harv taught me to work hard, to be generous, to accept people as they are, to love being Jewish, to love sports, to be political and fight for social justice, to love history, to treat dogs as humans, to love skiing, to challenge myself, to be a mostly honest scammer, to be a lifelong learner, to always double down on 11s and blackjack, to embrace laughter, to question authority, which I never had a problem with, and to have unconditional love for my family. Harvey was surrounded by women his entire life, working in women's health, having wife, daughters, and even our dog was female. Father and daughter relationships are very special. When I was a child, I tried to be like a son to have a closer bond, but puberty soon changed that. I remember how exciting it was to go with him to many sporting events. When I was a tween, we went to the newly formed NBA Denver Nuggets and met the superstar David Thompson, a highlight of my life. But in the end, he was proud and supportive of who I really am and have become. Harvey had tremendous strength. When he was 52, I watched as he had a heart attack and was literally brought back to life. Turns out the triple bypass surgery lasted a good 40 years. After this, I never took having a father for granted, because Harv worked so hard when we were growing up. Sitting around the dinner table was special when he was home, discussing and debating whatever was in the news or happening in our lives. I could have done without some of the more graphic details of his medical phone calls or cases, but that was the life of a doctor's daughter. I also remember going to many, many dinners that honored him or causes he supported. It always made me so proud that he was my father. Harvey loved life and lived it to the fullest, energetically, or with shpilkas, never slowing down much unless it was to have a meal with friends or family or to help someone in need. After my mom, Judy, died, Harvey's cognitive abilities changed, and it was my honor and filled my heart to take care of him as he had taken care of me. I will always treasure our outings to experience art, music, nature, and speakers of current events. These quiet moments were with a different Harv, who became even more kind and loving over time. I want to publicly thank all his caregivers who took such great care of him with dignity, humor, and love. Harvey touched so many people's hearts and lives. We will all miss him very much, but as Zoyetis, that's the way it goes. I wrote this in the car down this morning. Hi, again, thank you. And sorry for the repetition of themes I think we all are feeling right now. I am the baby. I've been told they were hoping for a boy, but as fate would have it, daughter number 3, Linda, not Larry, was given. Harv was, as we have all acknowledged, surrounded by women, both at home and at work, and he dedicated his life to helping them. I was lucky enough to work for Harvey and Wayne as a brand new midwife. I caught my first baby with Dad. And And I was always so proud to share with all my midwifery colleagues the OB maneuver that he taught me that really raises eyebrows in the midwifery community. Dad shared with me his art of patient care. His chart notes were brief, like a word. And seriously, like a word. Hawaii. Right? Yeah, fine. And personal connection really was the key. He emphasized the doorknob rule. And while I'm pretty sure he never sat down due to the spookies that we've all been talking about, I know his patients felt heard. Harvey was a champion of women's rights on almost every level one could be. He was outspoken at both the state and national legislatures. He served as chief of staff for 2 different hospitals, making sure to elevate obstetrics and gynecologic services under his leadership. His practice provided care regardless of payment, and he did this without judgment. He helped numerous friends with free birth control, free advice, and some even with abortion care. In retrospect, I think it felt personal to Harv that people should be treated with respect and dignity. He accepted all people. When Roe v. Wade was overturned, I knew this is what I was going to say. When Roe v. Wade was overturned, Harv's dementia had simplified our conversations. I worried that he would see the news and be devastated, that his life's work seemed to be going backwards, but he wasn't. Now I can't see my notes. He was my stalwart, providing guidance and hope when I felt very little. I talked to him about wanting to give up caring, leaving the mess for the people who created it, but Harv stopped me in my tracks, despair. And I asked him, how have you done this your whole life? You keep working at it when the tide just seems so against us. And he simply just said, because that's the right thing to do. That's Harv. Okay, so before the grandkids come up, that's all for me. I just know it's not all for me. One more thing. One more appreciation for both of my parents. They raised us daughters with opportunity and support. They took chances for us, sacrificed that feeling of security that parents have when their kids are nearby so that we could live, grow, and experience life. I'm thinking of when they sent me to Ecuador before cell phones existed. You guys are so lucky that you had cell phones. No question, what I'm going to miss the most is sharing my children's joys and successes with my dad. They always made him so proud. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for those beautiful, beautiful words. Now I'd like to call up the grandkids.
Hi, everyone. First, before we get started, just wanted to thank our amazing moms and everyone else for being here, but especially our moms, who we often refer to as just one unit mom. So the cousins had an opportunity to sit together yesterday and discuss how we wanted to honor Arieta. We started listing memories we had and ultimately decided the best way to explain what Arieta meant to us was to try to put his legacy, his larger than life, abundantly kind, absolutely hilarious, deeply grounded legacy into words. It isn't an easy task. We all talked about how there are ways that Arieta drives the choices we make in ways we don't even realize. One reason his passing weighs so heavy on us, besides the fact that we will miss him so deeply, is because we all desperately want to keep that legacy alive. So we thought we'd share some things that our Yeda, a legendary teacher and mentor to so many of us, taught us. He taught us to enjoy the finer things in life, like a sharp blue outfit or a good bottle of wine. We always knew his order, whether it was a bear claw, a non-fat, no-foam latte, or a New York strip. We knew better than to eat carrots in front of him because, as he told us, everyone who has ever eaten a carrot has ultimately died. He taught us to trust, handing us cash at an early age to go collect the paper and some pastries on our own in Frisco. He taught us the sport and joy of debating. He taught us about the majesty of Dave and Buster's. He taught us that his days off were for ice cream club. He also taught us the value of fun. He taught us what a point spread was and to multiply by 3s and 7s, and that Rockies games must be enjoyed with a Philly cheesesteak sandwich. Whenever we called from college, told him about a day at work, or celebrated a win on the soccer field, the question was always the same. Are you having fun?
He taught us about community, family, and friendship. He and Judy created a kind of magic in their home that made us all want to be around. He taught us to respect and enjoy the Jewish traditions we carry today. And he always left plenty of room for old friends and new ones at the dinner table and poker table alike. He bridged divides to bring people together, telling masterful stories along the way. He taught us to lead with respect and humility, but also to be confident in ourselves. We were all stupendous, the best, terrific, or magnificent, depending on the day. He worked tirelessly so we would want for nothing, but he made it clear that our job, with the privilege we had, was to work as hard as we could to make sure the world was a better place, especially for those who didn't have the advantages we did. He taught us the power of our voice and to put money where our mouths are. He was insistent on the value of education. We all loved trying to impress him with something new we learned at school, and we were always reminded that as long as the Broncos covered the spread, we would get to go to college. He taught us to love people and to love life. He was the ultimate charmer, making friends wherever he went. He taught us the power of schmoozing is to be genuinely curious and want to understand people, and that every single person has a story to learn from. We loved never finishing a meal at Monaco Inn without running into his patients and friends. We felt like our Yeda was a celebrity. He made Denver feel like a small town to us. He loved people because he deeply believed in the good in them. He also taught us about schmucks, like the health insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies. When individually, we would figure out, with his help, that a single-payer healthcare system was the best option, he would point a finger right at us and say, right.
Clearly, he taught us how to have a sense of humor. He lived a powerful and deeply influential life, but he never took himself too seriously. He was funny until his last day, blowing kisses, smiling, joking with his nurses, calling us all beautiful. He was an absolute giant in our lives. Saying that we've lost a grandparent doesn't even come close to summing it up. He was and always will be an infinite center of gravity. We had so much respect for him and so deeply wanted him to be proud and to make him laugh. He's at the heart of all our life decisions, our unconditional support for each other and our family, and our overriding conviction to be of service. And we also always knew that while there were high expectations and tremendous responsibilities that came as a result, we could never let him down. We think we taught him, the ultimate mentor, a thing or two as well. We taught him what it meant to be adored as a Yeda. And we might be biased, but we think this role rounded him out and made the best parts of him flourish. His last lesson was the power and humility of the lifelong caregiver allowing his family to care for him. He taught us that even someone with an unstoppable drive, let it come back around with grace. We love him so dearly. We are so proud to have the honor of being his grandchildren. We promise our Yeda and our beloved Judy too, that we will uphold and extend their legacy. We think we're up to the challenge because they always believed in us. They taught us that the finest thing in life is nothing material. It's family, community, and the bonds that we share.
From Psalm 23. Gam ki elech begit salma velo lo irara. Gam ki elech begit salma velo lo irara. Lo, 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 lo irara, ki ata imadi, ay, 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 ay. Lo, 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 lo irara, ki ata imadi. You can join me just with the melody. Ya la 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 ya. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la ya ya ya, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ay 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 ay, ya la la ya, ya la la la. Ay, ay, ya la la, ya la la, ay, 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 ya la la la, ya la la la. The Psalm of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. And now I want to offer a poem which is a favorite in our community and of the family. It's called We Remember Them by Sylvan Kamens and Rabbi Jack Reamer. And you can join me on the refrain if you like. At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of the autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. For as long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. So now I would like to invite you to rise, please, as we prepare for El Male Rachamim. El Male Rachamim shochen b'meromim. המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה. במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. את נשמת חיים מנדל בן ברל ורזל שהלך לעולמו. בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים אז תראהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים. וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Harvey Cohen, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bonds of life. May he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. You may be seated.
And end up with a beautiful song. Please sing along if you know it or hum along. There are places I'll remember all my life. Some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone, some remain. All these places had moments with lovers and friends. Still can recall some are dead, some are living. I love them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one cares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know of never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I can stop think about them. I know you. I love you.
Thank you, Hal. So I have a few announcements and I may ask Jim to offer a few more as well. Immediately after our service concludes, all are welcome to join us at the graveside service at Golden Hill Cemetery at 12,000 West Colfax. Shiva today will begin at 2:30 at Harvey's home, 5691 Southmore Lane, and we'll be gathering for a Shiva service at 3. We do ask that people end their visiting by 6. And while the holiday of Shavuot, which is coming in the next 2 days, will interrupt Shiva in an official way, the family is gathered and will have an open house from 4 to 7 Monday and Tuesday also at Harvey's home. And if you would like to make a donation in Harvey's honor, donations can be made to B'nai Havara.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the rabbi mentioned, we will have interment at Golden Hill Cemetery, which everyone is invited to. We do not have an escorted procession today. So if you'd like to go to the cemetery, we'll ask you to make your way as quickly as possible. Please do not gather too long here with conversation. Try to return to your cars as quickly as possible and start making your way to the cemetery. You are welcome to follow the hearse and the 2 family cars if you'd like. However, just like we will, you need to also follow all traffic laws. We will ask you to please, from coming forward and trying to talk with the family, that will delay their process in getting to the cemetery. And as you noticed how you're parked, you all need to get to your cars as quickly as possible, because we all need to leave at the same time. So those who are not going to the cemetery, we still need you to get out of here. So please return to your cars as quickly as possible. I'll invite everyone to start making your way now. I'm going to invite the family to go back to their family room for just a few minutes. Thank you very much for your attendance.